first step is binder leaf. I'm using Pennsylvania binder. Let's move these off. These are, the way they come is a full leaf. They come all bunched up. So you have to spritz them, spray a little water on them, keep them moist. This is the leaf you want to keep moist. Everything else underneath, which is the filler, keep it dry. The first step is to devein these. After they're pliable enough, you devein them. See, there's the leaf structure is more raised on the underside of the leaf. That's how you want to fold it over and grab the vein a few inches from the top, and then hold on to the other part of the leaf with your hand. Give it one quick motion, just rip it out. That takes out your stem, and just a little bit left on top. What you're left with is 2 half leaves, and that's what we'll use to cut the binder leaf from. So these are nice and pliable, and then you would lay them on your fabric cutting mat, and using a sharpened pizza cutter or a chavetta or an ulu knife, you'd actually cut the binder leaf ready to roll. Now you want to use too fat of a binder leaf because it'll create too many layers excuse me, on the center of the cigar. So you want to keep it fairly small. And then when you excuse me, put away these leaves, spritz them again with a little water and keep them flat. And then keep them as flat as possible. You can take them out a few times out of your bag and keep them flat. Very critical to have a nice, pliable, soft leaf for the binder. Okay, that's the binder leaf. So I'm going to take this off of here. And underneath, we have the 4 leaves I'm going to use for this for this cigar. The major manufacturers, major cigar companies, use at least 3 different kinds of leaves in their blend recipes. They vary among genetics and where they're grown on top of the plant, curing. They vary at mix. That's a real art to mixing the correct blend for a good cigar. I'm using Dominican Seco. In fact, the Dominican binder leaf is used by manufacturers of the high-end cigars. Probably about half of them use a Dominican binder. So it's a very good binder to start with. I'm using Paraguay Flow Vizio. This one is aged for about 5 years. It gives it a kind of a spicy, kind of a little zing. I'm using Seco Banda, and I'm using some more of the PA41, which is the Pennsylvania. Those are the 4 I'm using today. Okay, before you get started, you want to have with you some paper, newspaper. I use either Post-it tabs or Scotch tape, a pair of scissors, and a large ring gauge cutter. I use the scissors style. The reason I use the larger one is that sometimes these leaves get all fluffy at one end. It's kind of hard to get it through if it's smaller, so these stick right through and you can make the cut. You notice one end is cut at an angle. I do that with the scissors so that you can know which end to smoke. If you actually smoke the wrong end of a cigar, it'll actually come unraveled on you unless you know which end is the foot, the light end, and the head where you're gonna smoke it. And then you just cut it off when you're ready. There's a incidentally, when you smoke a cigar, as it burns, the binder and the wrapper burn on the outside, so it's kind of stratifies, what's called. So it goes down the cigar, and that's the smoke that comes into your mouth first. It actually surrounds the rest of the smoke that comes out through the center of the cigar. So that's why they say most of the flavor comes from the binder and the wrapper. That's because that's the smoke that contacts the inside of your mouth first before it starts mixing. By the time it's mixing and you exhale, blow it out, you've already tasted most of the binder and wrapper. So let's get started. you bring the handle back to make a little pocket back here, and now I'm going to start to bunch. Now I'll pull a little bit out of each bag here. I usually have a recipe here in front of me, but I know right now what I'm going to do. I'm going to use probably about 2 or 3 leaves of this, 2 or 3, about 1 or 2 of these, and 1 of each one of these. So this is this leaf, this Dominican Seco, has been what they called frog leaf. So they've taken out the big part of the vein, but they still leave in a little bit of the vein in here. When you smoke a cigar and you look at the end of it, those little white dots in the end of a cigar, that's actually these veins. So you want to take out as much of that as possible. Most of the flavor and the burn is in the leaf, not in the vein. So I'm going to pull that out of there and have a couple of them aside, so I'm ready to start rolling. You want to keep these as dry as possible, because it's harder for the moisture to come out of the center of a leaf than it is from the outside. I'm just going to take a few of these, and then this can be done ahead of time too. You can do this and store them. See how easy that comes out? I'll just do a couple more. This Paraguay Viso has already been frog-legged, and they're kind of in pieces because it was aged about 5 years, so it had a lot of handling, which is good because it's a better deal if they're a little bit beat up, because they're aged, which meant it mellows out the smoke. I'll do one more and then we'll get started. See how quickly do it? Just a quick down motion. Oops, that one didn't. There we go. Okay. Have on hand cigar glue. I'm using gum tragacanth. You can use gum arabic. You can use pectin. There's a lot of other things you can do this. It doesn't have any flavor in the cigar at all. That's what they use vegetable gum on virtually every cigar in the world. A little bit to stop it from unraveling at the head end. Okay, I'll get started. Now we're going to start bunching. There's 4 different ways to bunch cigars. There's entubado, there's the accordion. What I like to use is the accordion method. There's a book method also, and there's several other ways to do it. What the goal is to create air channels from one end to the next, and you do that with folds. Fold, fold. If you want to take the time, you can do entubado, which means you roll it. I don't like to take the time for that, but you can do that as well. It's the same thing. Now you notice the leaf is wider on the outside than it is on the ends. And I'll show you. You then rip off the end and turn it around and put it up here. So that makes a cigar more uniform. So you use one hand to hold them, and you try to fold, fold. Again, you're creating air channels all the way down the cigar. And you use this hand to hold and fold as many folds as you can to get that air dough all the way down the end. Now I'm going to move on over to the Viso. And throw this. This is kind of flavorful. Has a little bit different taste. I'm going to go back and throw another Dominican Seco in. I kind of mix these up a little bit. I'll throw one of the Seco Banda. And if you have a chunk, you don't want to throw it in there because it'll stop. You want to make sure there's folds in everything you put inside. Again, here's a Pennsylvania. Okay, now you want to kind of feel how big your cigar is. And then this, after your first one, you'll get a feel for how much to put in your hand. I don't think I have quite enough yet. Okay, now your hand is only so long. If you want to make a little longer cigar, it leaves the ends kind of vulnerable. So what I do, you'll see this happen very fast when the torcedores, they peel this off. It's thicker here and thinner here. So you want to tuck those in to make a more uniform cigar. Same with the bottom end. Tear them off, turn them around, so that it makes the end a little bit more fatter. Don't put them all in one spot. Pull about half of them in there. Go over here and put about half of them in here. Okay? And then you're forming your cigar to make it nice and round. Yeah, that's a good draw. Now what I do to further mold them, I take a piece of paper or typing paper or whatever and roll it inside. Now the outside of the leaf is a little wet, so by rolling it into a paper, it'll bring some of that moisture out. I usually put a tab or Scotch tape. Now it's ready to put away. These are some cigars that I've rolled earlier today. They're ready to be stored for about a week in a paper bag. So I'll put this one away with them as also. So what I do is I put these away for about a week inside of a paper bag, and then take them out, take the paper off, and then put them in your humidor. And these are some other cigars I rolled. I keep a little desiccant pack inside and store them for later use. So you can roll pretty small cigars down to about a 28 gauge using this. Now this is a one-step process. You can then come back and put a wrapper leaf on using this. Use the same system, just drop your cigar in the back and then roll the binder leaf on. Then you can trim it and put a cap on, you can put a band on, you can do whatever. But this is a quick start to a cigar. I personally smoke them just the way they are now. You find that the rest of the cigar is for looks, and it does impart flavor because you're putting on an extra layer on the outside. You take a high-end cigar like those infused cigars, try to smoke one time by taking off the wrapper and smoke it with just the binder leaf on. Smokes like any other cigar. Most of the infused flavor is actually in the wrapper itself.